Mark heard it when he closed his eyes, ragged breathing, wet and gurgling, inches from his ear. A cold breath slithered down his neck, carrying the scent of damp earth and rot. Mark, you forgot something. His eyes snapped open. The room was empty. The darkness was too thick, pressing against him like a living thing. His pulse thundered in his ears. He told himself it was just his imagination. But deep down, he knew some things refuse to stay buried. Mark had always been careful. He planned every detail meticulously. No loose ends, no mistakes. When he killed Lisa, he made sure no one saw, no one heard. A swift strike, a stifled gasp, and she was gone. The deep forest swallowed her body, the dirt embracing her as though she had never existed. But the dead never truly rest. It started small, a whisper in the dead of night, a soft breath against his ear. Mark, you forgot something. He jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The apartment was silent except for the rhythmic ticking of the clock. The air was thick, suffocating. He shook it off. Just a dream, just guilt. The next day, strange things happened. His phone buzzed with an unknown message. You left my ring in your car. His hands trembled as he checked. In the cup holder sat a small silver ring. Her ring. He was sure he had buried it with her. The sight of it sent a cold spike of terror through his chest. He grabbed it, heart pounding, and threw it into the river. That should be the end of it. That night, the whispers returned, closer, louder. Mark, I'm still here. The closet door creaked open. His reflection in the mirror was no longer his alone. Behind him stood Lisa, skin rotting, eyes sunken, mouth split into a gaping, unnatural grin. Her pale fingers twitched, reaching. He spun around. Nothing, but the scent of decay lingered. The air was freezing. His breath hitched. His skin felt ice cold. This was in his head. It had to be. The next night, she came back stronger. His TV flickered static, her voice slithering through the speakers. The walls pulsed with her whispers. The air reeked of something worse than decay. Something ancient, something wrong. You can't hide. Mark clawed at his ears. Leave me alone. A burst of laughter, sharp, mocking, inhuman. The lights flickered violently, casting twisted shadows that moved on their own. Then, complete darkness. A sudden force slammed him against the wall. Breath stolen from his lungs. A whisper, colder than death, brushed his neck. You forgot something else, Mark. He screamed as invisible hands gripped his throat, crushing the breath out of him. The walls bled black, shapes twisting, crawling, whispering in a language not meant for the living. He felt them, cold fingers dragging across his skin, nails digging into his flesh. Then silence. The next morning, Mark was found in his locked apartment. His eyes were frozen open in horror, his mouth stretched in a silent scream. His body was ice cold, lips blackened, veins dark as though something had poisoned him from within. Dark bruises wrapped around his throat, his own fingernail marks carved deep into his skin. In his hand, clenched so tight it took effort to pry open, was Lisa's silver ring. He had tried to throw it away, but she made sure he kept it forever. And in the silence of the empty apartment, the walls still whispered his name.